craft beer friends, and welcome to Season 8, Episode 21 of Tap to Craft Podcast. I am Denny Luce. I'm coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the Dog Whisperer, and my favorite Florida man from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How you doing tonight, Chris? And of course, what is in your glass?
Well, Denny, like you, I'm a little tired today.
Okay, it's not just me.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's the rest of the world too, because it seems like everybody's just kind of, well, meh.
Just mad?
It's just been a long, crazy day. But
Okay.
but other than that, everything is good. And in my glass tonight, this one, in my Frost Buddy this evening.
Frost Buddy.
I've got a beer from Heavy Seas Beer called the Black Ryed Susan.
Ooh, I like that artwork.
This is the beer that I tried to, or that I actually had friends and even some of our listeners searching for.
Yeah.
So not only is the artwork really cool on it, but this is a rye lager.
Okay, that sounds intriguing.
And it definitely is. Clocking it at 8.9%, which is a little higher than I expected. And it has some booziness to it, but you definitely get some spice in there from the rye. But it's not something that just covers your palate and, it's super sweet and you don't want to drink any more of them. But I mean, really, the whole reason I went for it was that artwork.
Yeah, I like the artwork. It's
So
got the Maryland flag back there, and
it's the USS Constellation, I believe, is what's docked in the Inner Harbor. If somebody's going to call me out on that if I'm wrong. But the Black-Eyed Susan's the Maryland state flower, and it's what they call a Maryland. What do they call a Maryland lager? Maryland rye lager is what they called it. So what about you, sir? How are you doing today, and what's in your glass?
Tired like you. But now I'm going to get my second wind, because whenever we start talking, I get all worked up. So I might be tired now, but I'll be buzzing and feeling good by the end of the day.
Okay.
Or end of the night, I guess. But I'm drinking this Lumberpunk, and it's not what you think it might be, a collaboration between Lumberbeard and Brewdog. No, this is a collaboration between Lumberbeard and Whistlepunk Breweries out of Washington. And this is an Italian Pilsner. And I think I've had this beer before, and I think I might have even had it on the show before. Does it sound familiar to you, Chris, or not?
That beer specifically?
Yeah.
No. It sure does look nice.
Yeah, it's nice and bright. Lots of bubbles in there. It's an Italian Pilsner, so it's going to have a little bit of hoppiness to it. So looking forward to drinking that while we chat about our topics tonight. And I just noticed that rye lager is 8.9%. Is that real?
That's what I said.
That's an imperial lager for sure. That's huge for a lager. That's twice what it should be.
Yeah, it's a little on the big side.
All right. Well, go big or go home. That's our motto, right?
It definitely does help after a long day of work.
Did you work today?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I had to do adult things, like I had to go grocery shopping and
Okay. Yeah. Adulting on Mondays. Yeah. No, at least you weren't working. Okay, Chris. Well, hey, we were actually gonna start this thing right on time, and as we said that, you had a power surge, but you're back. We're gonna hit this thing hard and get it done before you lose power altogether.
Yeah, I doubt it, but we'll see what happens.
But before we get too far into the show, we always want to let anyone new listening to Tap to Craft know what our podcast is all about. We are an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer, because we want to assist you, our listener, along in your craft beer journey and adventures. And you're listening to episode 203, recording on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. And yes, we are live on Facebook and live on Twitter. If you would like to join us during our recording, you can do that by joining us on Facebook or Twitter at 8:30 Eastern Time on the Monday before the show is released. That's when we do our recording. And in this episode, we're going to start diving into some Belgian beers. But before we get into the Belgian beer topics, I wanted to go over the history of Belgian beer. And we have had some episodes early on. We've been going, we're getting ready to finish up our 8th year of the podcast, and 8 years is a long time. And right in the beginning of the show, when we first had our first few episodes, we did talk about Belgian, a few, really brief history about some styles of Belgian beers. I want to dive deeper into these beers and deeper into the history. So today's show is chock full of all kinds of Belgian beer history, of how Belgian, got into the beer, and it's kind of an interesting story. So we'll be talking about that, and of course, you can count on Chris and I having some great conversation along the way. But before we get started, Chris and I would like everyone to know that this episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, Bill Schlemmer, Amanda and Kevin Argauer, Mark Reedy, and Mike Blanchard, who are our virtual producers, and Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Tara Carlson, Jalad Massa, Mark Church, Eric Groundley, and Matt Knight, who want to buy us a virtual beer. And if you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your host or buying us a virtual beer or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. All right, well, let's get into some feedback from our last show. Well,
we even got some real quick one. Connor Larson said cheers from Maine.
Oh, cheers from Maine, yeah.
He's the gentleman that co-owns the pizza place right up the street from us.
Gasparillos,
right? Yeah. Cheers to you, buddy.
I need to visit that place when I come visit Tampa for sure.
Well, they're in the midst of completing renovations to their restaurant, which I'm pretty excited to see because, well, like every renovation, right, Denny? It's not going completely as planned, taking a little longer and running into an issue here and there, but I'm excited to see it, mostly because it's literally just a mile that way, so
yeah, it's really close. I mean, it's walking distance.
It's just like Bill Schlemmer. He's got all those beer places down the street.
Exactly.
I've got Three Bulls and Gasparilla pizza.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I could do a little update. I've been in the last month. We've been renovating our kitchen and our master bath at the same time. I already told you that's not a good idea. And like you said, Chris, sometimes things just don't go as planned. But honestly, for the most part, the only real things that aren't going as planned, we got a few hiccups. We overcome them, and it's not really setting us back too far. But the things that are really bothering me is just that my inability to do anything, like having anything go easy the first time I try to do it. So I haven't had one thing that didn't give me trouble so far what I'm doing. I'm hoping that eventually that'll ease in, and I'll at least have one thing I do that goes easy the first time I try. So that's
it's the typical of any renovation.
Yeah. But I told Chris before the show started that we did have the glass guys come in for our shower. It is custom glass, so they have to measure out and get all the glass dimensions figured out, so they can order it up, and it'll be 4 to 6 weeks before that'll be ready. But then we're still waiting for our vanity. Hopefully it's getting packaged up and getting ready to deliver to us real soon, and then we'll be ready to use the bathroom again. Probably not until I'm guessing not until mid-June we'll be ready, but that's coming up close. Okay, so we did have a listener question, and I should have sent this out to. I meant to add this to Facebook and let everyone chime in, but you know what, Chris? You have got experience with this question, so let me go ahead and read what Tara Carlson wrote to us asking about. So she says, we are taking a little trip to Asheville, North Carolina in May and looking for recommendations. Of course, the well in Asheville is a given. I know someone, perhaps Jeff Seiler, is always checking in at Burial. Sadly, we are not connected on Untappd to ask. And why is that, Tara? So this made me think, why aren't our listeners, going through and checking what Chris and I's friends and finding out, the people we talk about on the show and just clicking on them and adding. It's really easy to do, but maybe I need to add a list of our listeners' untapped accounts. So if someone wants to find, add someone that we talk about on the show, they can do that easily from the website. But if I don't do that, because that takes effort, if I don't do that, it's very easy. If you just go into Chris or my, find us as your friend, click on our friends, and you can see the entire list. And then as you go down, hopefully you'll see a name that you recognize that you're looking for, and just go click that person and say add friend. And I'm sure if they're listening as well, they'll see that, oh yeah, this is Tara, and Jeff will add you and you add Jeff, and you guys are now friends to chat about beer with. So that's the easy way of doing it. Whenever I don't know someone's untapped, I just go into someone that we're linked to, and I just go and search until I find them.
Yeah.
Let's finish up her email real quick here. It says, so that's also a planned stop. Was it good? You got to stop at Burial for sure. And out of the myriad of options in Asheville, it would be nice to get a curated list. Thanks and cheers. So, Chris, what is your curated list of must-visit breweries in Asheville?
So looking at Asheville is like asking someone that very same question when they come to Tampa. Right?
So it's easy.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, everywhere you go, you got great beer.
That's right.
So I guess really the best way to go, and I love the fact that the Whale is a great place to start. But man, here, I mean, why I say it's like here in Tampa, we've got over 80 breweries within like an hour-ish of us right now. So it's really just throw a dart and you're going to find one. Most of them are pretty good, and there's some ones that are better than others, but for the most part, Asheville is pretty much the same way. And if I had to pick, I mean, this could go for a long time, guys. It really could. If I was to pick a handful of them, first one that comes to mind, go to Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
People call it Malt Disney World for a reason. Okay. So it's a cool place to go check out, experience, and see, and all that stuff. Make sure you go check them out. Even New Belgium, always a great place. It's a really cool brewery. It's out down on the river. I mean, it's a really cool open space to check out. It's a lot of outdoor space you can enjoy while you're there. And Wicked Weed, again, I kind of listed off some of the big three that were there. Wicked Weed is a great place to go. Burial, you talked about, certainly. The one I always screw up the name on, Bramari Brewing.
Yeah.
Them, Catawba Brewing Company, which by the way is right next to this place called Vortex Donuts, and it's a good place to do a donut and beer pairing, because Catawba's got the peanut butter and jelly thyme or peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which it's like biting into a sandwich. Highland Brewery is there, Green Man Brewery is there, Wedge Brewing, hell, even White Labs is in Asheville.
So you can go drink some yeast.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what they're putting out. So we talked about Catawba, Burial. It's always
what was
there.
the ones that William or Bill Slimmer mentioned when he went through in his we read him last. I think we even read him last show.
Did we? I know High Wire is always one you can check out.
Been one of them, yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them that it's just you get into kind of that main downtown area, and you just, okay, let's go this direction, and you're gonna find some.
Yeah, there was. He said there was some that were walking distance from where he was staying, and yeah. So I don't know. I think for sure Burial. I think 100% Jim would. I mean, I think both. Well, they do a lot of New England hazies, right? But they also do. I've had stuff that aren't IPAs as well. But I think a lot of them are New England. But yeah, you got to go to Burial and try everything they've got. I think Sierra Nevada is a no-brainer. I don't know about New Belgium, though. I mean, you're there, you might as well visit. But
Yeah, and it's really not too far from Sierra Nevada either.
Mhm.
At least not that I can remember, because I remember going with one of our former listeners, Dustin, him and his
Yeah.
now wife. Like, we met at New Belgium and then drove over to Sierra Nevada. But I mean, there's just so many places to check out, and it's hard to make a mistake, because if you hate one of them, go 2 blocks over and you're to another one. you're in a different brewery.
Okay. Is I guess Jeff's probably not on right now.
Last I saw, he was on.
He
Jeff,
was
if
on. So
yeah,
Jeff, go ahead and chime in on some other maybe not so known great stops in Asheville, since you're the man on site.
yeah,
And of course, go friend Tara Carlson. Just find her on my friends list, and her and Jim. You
yeah,
guys can meet up while you're there. That'd be fantastic if you guys could meet up at Barrel, maybe, since that seems to be Jeff's favorite spot.
yeah. Our on the ground correspondent, Jeff Seiler, down in Asheville, North Carolina. But yeah, I gotta say, guys, I mean, it's hard to pick a bad spot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all we've got. Hopefully, we'll get more before you hit that trip. But we've guess what? We've got some voicemail too. We got 2 voicemails from our buddy Eric Gronley. It's amazing that just a couple months ago he never left a voicemail, and now look at him. He's leaving all kinds of
I
voicemails. So I
know,
really appreciate that. So you got these things queued up, Chris?
sure do.
All right.
Pull
Well,
that
let's
one.
go ahead and hear what Eric has to say.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Eric Gronley from Champlin, Minnesota, checking in. Got to do something really cool that I've been wanting to get involved with for a while, and it's the World Beer Cup.
Ooh.
And Phase 3 came through Minneapolis, Minnesota this weekend. So yesterday was my first day helping out, and I am hooked. This has been so much fun. Everybody on the competition team has been fantastic to work with. We each get to work with a different table, and judges, and bring the beer out to them, listen to them, critique the beer, and give comments. And so the beer geek in me has been really geeking out this weekend. It's a lot of extra steps, just a lot of walking. So my feet are pretty hurt, but it's well worth it. A lot of different breweries from all over that everybody's getting to sample and just check out and be on the lookout for as maybe up and comers. So it's really cool. I would recommend to anybody, if the World Beer Cup or any beer competition comes through your city, to volunteer, give it a shot. It's really fun. They've been treating the volunteers just fantastic. The judges have been, like I said, just overly nice, incredible to work with, super thankful, and everybody's having a great time. So anyways, I got one more day left in me here tomorrow, so I'll probably try to check into something right before the show, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.
All right. So that was a recap after his first day, but he was excited to go ahead and call back in right before the show to leave a second voicemail talking about his second day. So let's go ahead and hear that one.
Hey guys, it's Eric Gronley from Minnesota. Just checking in after my final day of helping steward at the World Beer Cup held in Minneapolis, place for Phase 3 this year. It was just so much fun. I did not think I was going to have this much fun doing it. Saying goodbye to some of the new beer friends I made for the past 3 days. It's kind of like when you go to summer camp and you meet some new friends and you say goodbye to them. But now I have more beer friends across the country, so that's a huge plus. Got to sit in on 6 different medal rounds, which was super, super exciting, and just listen to the judges talk about all the different beers. I got to have lunch with 4 of the judges from like 4 different countries. So just truly a really cool global experience. There were over 10,000 beers that were judged in the 3 days, which is
Wow.
just nuts. And 50 metal categories in this last phase here. Just so much fun. The whole team is just complete professionals. I'm just super hooked and want to do every competition and help out as much as I can. And if listeners are interested, the awards ceremony is this Thursday, May 5th. Apparently you can watch it virtually on worldbeercup.org. So that's kind of fun. And then if anybody's in the area for this week, the Brewers Conference is going on starting today through Friday, I guess. So pretty cool. Come in, enjoy the Minneapolis beer scene when you can, and look me up. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
So that's pretty awesome that the World Beer Cup, came to his town.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be ever be lucky enough to have it come through Boise. I don't know if Boise's big enough for it, but if it did, I 100% will volunteer to go do what Eric did, because that sounds like a good opportunity to get a little bit behind the scenes of some of this judging, get to chat with new people, find other people that you enjoy drinking with and talking about beer. And now he's got. It's funny how he mentions it's like when you went to summer camp as a kid and you meet all these new people and then you never see them again, but they're like really good for that week or 2 weeks or however long you're in camp. You just feel so close. Even for 2 days, Eric, got a sense of community and friendship, and they're all linked together by the commonality of the love for beer.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I would 100% do that, and I'm really curious to see, who wins, because I don't remember if they canceled it the last time because of COVID, or if they still had it. I can't remember if it was one of the ones that got canceled. I think they may not have had it 2 years ago for COVID, but I can't remember.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's every 2 years they have the World Beer Cup.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
So Jeff Seiler chimed in and said that all of our recommendations were excellent. You can go to AshevilleAleTrail.com and get a copy of their field guide to breweries in Asheville. It's the best current summary of local breweries I have found. Cheers. Okay. So Tara, Jim, AshevilleAleTrail.com will be a great starting point for you.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you, Eric, for your voicemails. Chris and I love getting voicemails from our listeners, and hey, I think everyone that listens will find some good information that you provided. So thank you for that.
Well, now I'm interested in seeing if the World Beer Cup ever makes it to Florida.
I think you have a better chance, in Florida. It may not be Tampa, but somewhere in Florida where you can get access to it pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, Orlando holds some really large get-togethers for stuff, so that's not too bad as far as the drive goes.
Yeah. All right, and if you would like to contact the show with your comments or questions, you can reach us through email like Tara did at tapthecraft@gmail.com, or on Twitter and Instagram, just add us at tapthecraft. And of course, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/tapthecraft. You can leave your comments and questions and post stuff there on our wall, and also visit our website, tapthecraft.com. And if you want to be like Eric and leave us a voicemail and get your voice heard on the show, you can voicemail us or call us at 208-536-3359, or if it's easier for you to remember, 208-53-ODDLY, and give us a call.
And Eric also chimed in and said that it was canceled for 2020. The last one that he was told was in 2018 in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then our good friend Tanky Tim said, "Yo, boys, is the Beer Cup hobbyist brewers only?" No, Tim, I do believe that is professional brewers.
Professional, yeah. This is the World Beer Cups. And if you win a World Beer Cup, that's even grander than GABF.
Damn, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Great American, then you got the World Beer Cup. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I knew it was every 2 years, and I thought that it was canceled in 2020. So yeah. So that 10,000. And keep in mind, this was phase 3 of the World Beer Cup, and there was 10,000 beers to be judged.
Mm.
I mean, imagine phase 1 and 2. How many beers were they doing then? Or maybe it's. I wonder if they do. I need to read up on this and find out how they do it. Maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe phase 1 and 2. I don't. I gotta figure out how they do it. Maybe Eric can tell us if he can write back in or voicemail us and let us know what happens in phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. Are they all new beers, or is phase 1 and 2 like half and a half, and then phase 3 is taking the winners of phase 1 and 2 and doing a competition with them? But still, 10,000 beers in one phase seems like a lot of beers to be going through. It must have been a ton of volunteers or judges that were judging these beers.
Yeah, that's that's just insane.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Well, let's continue the conversation because now it is time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untapped.
So it seems like people have been doing a lot of drinking the last couple of last few 24 hours. The last 24 hours. And guys, remember, if you want us to read your check-ins, make sure you follow me on Untapped at MCK1345. And we read a fair amount of the check-ins from the 24 hours prior to us recording. So first one we're going to start off with is Mr. Tom Byrne. He has been doing a lot of drinking, or at least a lot of checking in to a handful of different places. One check-in is at the Powder House Brewing Company. He's drinking a Snow Blind with 3 3/4 caps for his check-in there. And I love these because he's checking in like I do. He's at least rating things when he's got a bunch of different things to check into. But a handful of things at Barbarian Brewing, some at Western Collective, Ecliptic, Denny, all the places that I hear you talk about a lot. He's checked into a few of those. Also checked into a Bell's Bourbon Barrel Aged Expedition Stout from 2021, which he gave a 4.5 cap rating to. Black Daylight by Lumberbeard Brewing, 4 3/4 caps. He said, this doesn't have the ridiculous barrel profile of early years of fundamental observation, but it does have the batshit amount of vanilla. If that's your jam, it's phenomenal.
Not for Tara. She doesn't want that vanilla.
Well, listen, how many things have we gotten to where people go, no, that doesn't belong in beer, and they end up liking it. Let's see. Next on the list, Mike Allen is drinking a Utopia's Barrel-Aged Worldwide Stout by Dogfish Head Craft Brewery. He's checking into this in Sacramento. He said it seemed a worthy endeavor for check-in number 6,000.
Oh, damn.
Wow. The Utopia's notes are there, but it's coming in pretty hot. 4.5 caps for that beer. Jeff Seiler even chimed in on that one and said, wow, I hope I can find this sometimes. Congrats on 6,000, because God, that's a lot of check-ins. Any of those not familiar with the big beers from Dogfish Head, by the way, 120-minute IPA just got released recently. Gonna go get some of that. But the Worldwide Stout clocking in at 17.3%.
Oh, it's a low one. Wow.
Yeah, it's been higher.
Toned it down a bit. Yeah.
Well, the barrel probably soaked up a little.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But yeah, because I had one when I went to one of their tap houses. It was 21%.
Oh,
I'm like 21% freaking stout. Come on, that is ridiculous.
I think it's like 24% that it becomes like spirits. Let's see. So yeah, he's been checking into a lot of things as well. Mike Allen checking into a couple of things at Moxa Brewing. Craig Andrew, which is a friend of mine that I met at the last beer event that I went to, and he found me on Untapped. He's drinking a Phantasm of the Opera by District 96 Beer Factory. Irie Jungle check-in. He said he purchased this one at Tripping Animals Brewing that he gave 4.5 caps to. David Martin is drinking a Vacanza Cranberry Raspberry Pie Goza by Wild Leap, 4.25 caps for that one, but no notes to go along with it. Skinny Matt Knight drinking an Angelica by Lord Hobo Brewing Company. Missed check-in from last night, he says. Likely story. 3.75 caps for that one. He's also checking into a Narragansett Dell's Black Cherry Shandy. Solid shandy, very crushable, will make a great camping beer. Good beverage while hunting megalodons on the seas. What are you playing, Matt? Tell us what you're playing. 3.75 caps for that one. Next on the list, Cody A is drinking a Hop Drop and Roll by Noda Brewing Company. 4.25 caps with no notes to go along with that one. JC drinking an Allagash White by Allagash Brewing Company. 4 caps for that one. Mr. Jeff Seiler, I like your Doctor Who glass there, Jeff. He's drinking a Maibach by Fonta Flora Brewery. It's May, so it's time for a Maibach. Love this style. It's malty, toasty, and mildly sweet. Enjoying this one in my Doctor Who TARDIS mug because I love Maibachs. May and Doctor Who. 4.25 caps for that beer. Ooh. John WC is drinking a Wet Hopped Headhunter by Fatheads Brewery. Awesome tongue scraping pine and nice orange marmalade. The aroma alone is amazing. 5 cap rating for that beer. Bill Schlemmer is drinking a Lily Bell by Mills River Brewing Company. Lily Bell is a tasty IPA on a warm day in Flat Rock, North Carolina.
Oh, he's back in North Carolina.
Very juicy and fruity in a good way. 4 cap rating for that one. Moving on up the list here. John WC's checking into a few other things as well. Continuing his check-in streak for the 24,300. It is no, not him. It's Chad Lamassa. Is drinking a Hoppywood by Full Tilt Brewing. Another can art pickup. This has a nice hop bitterness. Hopefully that comes back. I've missed it. 5 cap rating for that beer. I love how you whisper. It's Chad Lamassa. No, duh. God, let's see. Got a few other things. Jeff Seiler is drinking a One of Us Will Have to Bury the Other by Burial Beer Company. It's delicious, fooder-aged Mexican-style lager. Now, that's just something you don't hear together at all. Fooder-aged Mexican-style lager. We have that here in Florida, but that's just because somebody dumped their Corona on the sidewalk. Anyway.
Oh, come on, man.
Getting warmed up for Thursday, so happy Dos de Mayo. 4 cap rating for that beer.
Dos de Mayo.
Yep. Craig Andrew again is checking in. Image Rendering by Ology Brewing Company. Citra on Citra on. That's what he wrote, not me. 4.5 cap rating for that beer. And moving on up the list, Art Warcheck drinking a double dry hopped Ghost in the Machine by Parish Brewing Company. 4.75 caps at his favorite check-in, North Phil Harmstead. And we're going to refresh and see what we see on here. And Matt Knight drinking a Business by Stillwater Artisanal. This one is done very well. A little bit charred flavor blends well with the sweetness of molasses. Ends with a nice maltiness drawn out by caramel. Getting a little bit of booziness in here as it warms, but it's well balanced with everything going on. 4.75 caps for that beer.
Yeah, I like Stillwater Artisanal. They make some good beers.
I also enjoy them, but that is what everybody is drinking this evening.
Okay. Well, we did have some comments on Facebook. It looks like Tim Johnson decided to put a link to AA because Mike Allen, with those 6,000 check-ins, he might need it.
That's okay. Listen, craft beer is a hobby.
It is a hobby.
It's not an addiction. It's a hobby.
It is a hobby. And then Eric Gronley went ahead and discussed a little bit about the World Beer Cup phases. Phase 1 and 2 were 52 categories that were done in Denver. A lot of the American styles were covered. Phase 3 was 50 categories, different from prior phases. More international categories, just a handful of American styles left. 40% of the judges were international as well, but all were so kind and thankful for the volunteers. And he says, I could go on and on and on. May have to leave more voicemails. Haha. Hey, leave those voicemails. It's all good.
20853 oddly.
That's right. That's right.
Just
It's on
pick up
speed dial.
just
He has
pick
it on
up the
speed
phone and dial.
now.
Listen, if you guys don't have it on your speed dial and it's not in your contact list, what are you even doing with your life?
I don't know. All right. Well, hey, now it is time for Beer Speak 101, where we briefly define common and not so common beer terminology. And in this episode, we explain what it means when we talk about the International Bitter Unit, or IBUs, which you hear us talk about all the time. So, International Bittering Units, also IBU, is the measure of bittering substances in beer. This is an analytical assessment in milligrams of isomerized
Alpha acids.
alpha acids per liter of beer in parts per million. This measurement depends on the style of beer. Light lagers typically have an IBU rating between 5 and 10, while big, bitter India Pale Ales can often have an IBU rating between 50 and 70. So there you go. That's what international bittering units are. Now, this is a real measured amount of bitterness and not the perceived bitterness. So keep that in mind. It's not what you perceive, it's what is measured. Now, not all breweries list the IBU by getting it measured, because you have to do this in a lab. They kind of take the amount of hops and the alpha content in those hops and the amount of time it spends in the boil to come up with a calculated IBU value. So, but some of the bigger breweries that have good labs, they can either send it out, or they can either do it on. I don't know if they can do it on site. Maybe they can, but I think they send it out to labs to have it tested. But that costs money.
Well, there's one thing I want to point out too. If anybody, so as I'm watching our feed on my phone, I've got closed captioning at the bottom, which, by the way, has been incredibly accurate. We said the word isomerized, and it spelled it perfect. Watch what happens.
You said the word Bahama or whatever, and it spelt it right too, which surprised me.
Oh, okay. Come on, you can do it.
Bahama me.
Isomerized. It's gonna pop up in a second. You watch. Oh no! It was right on my phone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh well.
But actually, Jeff had given me a cheat way to pronounce that place, and he just said, from one of the bartenders, the H in Bramari is silent. So
Bramari.
Yeah. So you just basically skip the H, and it's Bramari.
Okay. Bramari.
I'll take that. That helps a lot, man. So much.
And then when we say it that way, it actually spells it correctly with the H.
It did. No, it's close, but it flip flops some letters. But
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, let's carry on. We're making good time, trying to make this thing stealth, or not stealth. We're not stealth. Streamlined. So let's get into the brew buzz. What about you? Ready for the brew buzz, Chris?
Denny, I'm always ready for the brew buzz.
All
if
right.
I could pronounce it, that'd be even better.
I know. I haven't even had that much to drink, but I feel like I've had a lot. Maybe this Italian Pilsner is bigger than I thought it was.
That's what she said.
It's only 4.8%. This is killing me.
Mm.
Okay, so the Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics, and this week, as we already mentioned, we're going to talk about the history of Belgian beer. Now, I went looking around for information, and there's lots of different sites that have information, and a lot of them, kind of repeat a lot of the same things. But I did find one blog that was a little bit different. And this is everything you need to know about the history of Belgian beers, written by Luca and found on the Brew Nation blog, which is actually a French or it has a .fr, which I'm assuming is, now that I say that, it is FR is France, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the thing, I think. Yeah. So it's a blog out of France, but But I thought that this was something that's a little different than what you'll probably find anywhere else. And I thought there was interesting stuff. And I did take a couple things here in the beginning from some other sites, but these are pretty much the same that most people had to say. So I'll start it off here, Chris, and I'll let you start off at the first highlighted spot down there. Okay, so Belgian beer was made long before Belgium became an independent country. It is believed that it started even before the First Crusade. The French and Flemish brewed beer to raise money. There are many types of Belgian beers, but the two most popular are Trappist beers and Abbey beers. The first Trappist brewery in Belgium, which was Westmalle, did not actually start its production of beer until the end of 1836, which was almost 50 years after the French Revolution. Westmalle was exclusively for monks and is described as dark and sweet. The origin of beer in Belgium is closely linked to the existence of abbeys and monastic communities. In fact, according to the rule of Saint Benoit, is that Saint Benoit or Saint Bernard?
Saint Benoit.
Benoit, we'll say that. Saint Benoit, which dates from the 6th century, abbeys have the duty to offer food and lodging to travelers.
I wonder if they still do.
I bet they do.
I hear they've got great beer.
Yeah. At the time, Belgium had very little wine growing land, and it was therefore logical that the monks turned to beer production. Moreover, it was Charlemagne who in the 9th century forced the abbeys to produce beer. This allowed the breweries to become more professional, notably creating the first written recipes. At that time, breweries mainly brewed a type of beer called gruit, which was not brewed with hops, but with a mixture of aromatic herbs. So there's just kind of a summary of beers in Belgium, and kind of what most of the sites will kind of give you a little breakdown like that. But now let's go ahead and dive deeper into Belgian beer. So why don't you go ahead and start that off, Chris?
The first Belgian breweries showed up in the Moselle region of Belgium. There are written records of a brewery in 805 AD. As early as 1074, the brewery of the Abbey Effligem, now owned by the Heineken Group, was established. The brewery developed particularly well in its early years, as beer was recommended as protection against the plague. I didn't. Yeah, exactly. I wish it would have fought against COVID, but it's delicious. At the time, beer was considered to be of better quality than water in Belgium. In fact, the production of beer required the water to be heated, which eliminated the bacteria. Smart. In the 13th century, a brewery was established in Villers-la-Vie, where monks first settled in 1146. Unfortunately, this brewery was destroyed in the 16th century during the wars of religion.
Go ahead and continue on, Chris.
Okay. The development of demand and the first golden age of breweries, which was the 14th and 15th century. So from the 14th century onwards, Belgium experienced a period of economic prosperity. As a result, beer left the religious sphere and was consumed by more and more people. But what happened to allow such an economic development? In their essay, Beer and Wine Drinking Nation, Aline Polmans and John F.M. Swinen give a very plausible explanation. According to them, it was above all the increase in purchasing power that made it possible to set up commercial breweries. Until then, beer was mainly consumed in monasteries because it was free. It's starting to sound like being a monk. Not so bad. This is why the 14th century onwards, with the increase in purchasing power, the first taverns, or equivalent to a pub, this is when they appeared. Indeed, with the increase in trade and travel, new needs emerged, like accommodations and catering. In the 14th century, competition. Consumers finally had the choice to choose one beer over another and fight to the death. Sorry. As far as hops are concerned, there is evidence of German breweries using them as early as the 800s. In Belgium, the use of hops became widespread around the 14th and 15th centuries. In addition to giving a particular flavor to beer, hops also make it possible to obtain better conservation. As early as 1364, Emperor Charles IV issued a decree obliging brewers to use hops. The decree was not, however, valid in the whole of present-day Belgium.
Yeah, forced to use hops.
I mean,
got tired of that spicy beer.
Spicy carrot water. Like it just wasn't.
Water, yeah.
The parsnips that you're using to flavor my beer just isn't cutting it anymore.
Yeah, it's not cutting it. I want some hops. I want some of that bitterness in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see what the French Revolution and its consequences in the 18th century have on beer in Belgium. While breweries were enjoying a golden age, the 18th century was a more complicated period for Belgian breweries. There are three particular reasons for this decline. The first reason, the disappearance of the guilds. There were I didn't go into details on this, but there were, and we've talked about guilds in the history of beer. We talked about different guilds, and I think we talked about it when we talked about the women in beer as well, that there's guilds of brewers and that would get together. But so Belgium had their guilds as well. So the first consequence of the French Revolution was to ban the existence of guilds. The brewers, therefore, no longer had the same clout as they had before. So they're separate and thin out the herd and conquer them. Destruction of some of the breweries. Secondly, the French Revolution also destroyed many abbeys and monasteries that were previously breweries. It was not until the time of Napoleon that some breweries were redeveloped. And then the last thing was the appearance of new competitors to beer. Uh-oh. Other alcohols are coming in, huh? Finally, the 18th century also saw the appearance of new competitors that would also harm the brewing sector. New beverages appeared in everyday life. For example, cocoa. But also the first soft drinks appeared this time. In 1767, the existence of carbon dioxide was discovered and was possible to add it to water. So just giving someone some fizzy water was enough to make them happy. No, I want some beer. I want some flavor to that water. Let's see, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and read one more and then I'll let you finish it off. All right, so now let's look at this a century of scientific improvement coming in the 19th century. First of all, it was the research of well-known scientists that led to major advances for brewers. It was Louis Pasteur and his research on fermentation that led to major scientific advances for brewers. In the 19th century, also saw the appearance of numerous publications on beer. In 1851, the complete treatise on beer making and grain distillation appeared. Before this book, brewing knowledge was only passed on from master to apprentice. In 1887, the first brewing school was established at the Catholic University of Leuven. This enabled new people to train and become brewers. At the same time, bottling techniques also progressed, making it possible to preserve beer better. Finally, at the dawn of the First World War, Belgium had about 3,000 breweries. Some breweries were already quite large, such as Kolkenberg Brewery, which was founded in 1886 and produced Pilsner-type beers. There was already a certain diversity in Belgian beers, which is still present today. There are Abbey beers, white beers, spontaneous fermented beers, such as Goose, and of course, Pilsner beers, which were already very fashionable at the time.
Says, when have you ever looked at your beer and went, this is quite fashionable?
Well, I mean, some, like right now, the hazy IPAs are fashionable.
I guess. All right. So the impact of the two world wars on Belgian beer. I never thought about that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. As in most European countries, the two world wars had terrible consequences for the Belgian brewing industry. In short, There were different figures depending on the website you visit, but it seems that the First World War reduced the number of breweries to about 2,000 versus 3,000 before the war. The workforce was absent during the war because it was present at the front.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, the brewing equipment was logically damaged by the World War because it was little used and maintained for 7 years. The copper vats were also requisitioned by industry to manufacture weapons.
Mm.
The Second World War reduced the number of breweries to less than 1,000, or which turned it around to about 800. To conclude, the consequences of the two world wars were disastrous for the European brewing sector.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, I mean, it's not as bad as Prohibition for us.
No, I mean, that's even
that
worse.
wiped out all of our breweries.
Yeah, but I mean, can't we just drink beer and get along? I mean, that would have been so much easier. The post-war period and the concentration of breweries, though, the revival of the Belgian beer consumption. Fortunately, the post-war period saw a revival in consumption. Yeah, if you went to a war, you might drink a little bit, which, I mean, helps raise some more breweries, which is nice. It was the time of the famous 30 glorious years, and the whole of Europe experienced a boom. Some breweries made a name for themselves and approached the era of mass consumption. In 1954, the well-known Leaf brand was created. As you will have noticed, this is a big change. We're talking less and less about beer or breweries and more about brands.
Yeah.
All right. So a huge change took place in the 1950s and was initiated by Affligem Abbey. Affligem beer became the first Abbey beer brewed by laymen and not monks. The Affligem monks relocated their brewing, and the beers were brewed by the De Hertog Brewery. So not even, how do they even call it a Trappist brewery?
Well, no, Trappists have to be brewed by the monks, so they're
Okay.
not Trappists. They're Abbey.
Oh, they're
Trappists.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the difference, to be honest. All right. So let's see. So the concentration of breweries and the creation of large Belgian brewery groups. The year 1988 was a turning point for Belgian beer. The Artois Brewery, which brews the famous Stella Artois, merged with the Piedboeuf Brewery. This was the birth of the Interbrew Group. Say that 3 times fast, which later became part of the AB InBev Group and the largest brewing group in the world. In the same year, the Belgian breweries Van Alken and Maes merged to form the Alken Maes Group. The Artois Brewery is actually a very old Belgian brewery created by Sebastian Artois in 1708 in Leuven. The very first Belgian microbrewery, though, was created in 1979 with the Aleworks Brewery. This happened 7 years before the first French microbrewery, the Coref Brewery, in 1986. And since then, many breweries have joined the Belgian craft beer scene. One thinks in particular of Brussels Beer Project, which opened a bar in Paris, the Scene or the Seine Brewery, or N. Stomeling. More information on our article on the Brussels Beer Guide.
Yeah. So that is that summarizes up to kind of more modern. I mean, that's where we're at. Yeah, that's the history of beer in Belgium. Craft beer started coming around in the mid '80s, and but I don't think craft beer is really. I don't know. Maybe it is more fruitful now than it was, but I think the main beers, at least that we get over here, are really focused on the traditional ones that have been around for a lot longer. So this is an introduction into the history of Belgian beers, and now we'll be breaking down in different shows. We'll break down 1 or 2 styles of Belgian beers and go into more details about these styles and the history behind how those styles evolved in Belgium. So stay tuned for that. Okay, Chris. Looks like we're running we're steaming along just about right amount of time, and we're on to our new and noteworthy beers. I see you're quickly writing things down. You want me to go ahead and talk about mine while you finish up?
So I think, honestly, yeah, you go ahead and talk about yours.
Okay. Okay. So I am very lucky. I've talked about my good friend Alex Fuchs many times on the show. He's back in town, and this time he brought, instead of bringing me commercially produced beers either from Israel or from Europe, England, and around Europe, he went ahead and brought me his homebrew. Now I haven't gone to Israel in over 2 years now, and I was going twice a year. Now I haven't gone in over 2 years due to Corona. So I last time he was here, I said, "Hey, you just bottle up some of your beer and bring it back with you so I can try some of your homebrew because I know that his homebrew is. I mean, he's stepping up his game. And when he lived here in Boise with us, he was making good beer, but I wanted to see how his beers changed in the last few years. And guess what? His beer has really elevated up to a very high standard. And for one thing, I'll say the 4 beers that I had, there's no way you would know that these beers were homebrewed. These are perfectly clean beers that taste like you just got it out of your favorite commercial brewery. They were really well done. No imperfections that I could find. And the styles that he brought me lager, he brought me an English bitter, he brought me a spiced winter ale, and he brought me a Mexican chocolate stout. And I'll tell you, they were all fantastic. But let me tell you about the first one. And again, his brewery is the Three-Legged Crow Brewing. And the first beer I'll talk about is the Everyday Lager. And the Everyday Lager, here's what I wrote about it. I said it's clean, flavorful lager that is lighter bodied and well balanced. The Saaz hops provide a nice flavor, but not overpowering with bitterness. The lager is fantastic, Alex. I absolutely love it. And I gave this beer a 5-cap rating. So keep in mind that Alex is my friend. And a lot of times when you drink people's homebrew, you want to be nice to them or whatever. Well, you know what? He knows that I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to be truthful. So he knows that if I give his beer a 5-cap rating, I'm not fluffing him up. I mean, this beer is one of the best lagers, light pale lagers that I've ever had. And it's a beer that I could drink every single day and be happy. And that is a huge praise from anyone, but from me especially. I think I hope that he understands. I mean, I think he understands that beer is really good. So that was my first one. The second one is the Sub-Zero Winter Warmer. And this is, like I said, it's a spiced winter warmer with some cloves, cinnamon, something else. I can't remember what else, but it says lots of spiced notes on the nose. Definitely a winter holiday beer. Now, I've never been a fan of spiced beers, but Alex put just enough to enhance the flavor without overdoing it. A really tasty winter ale. And again, well made with no flaws, 4.5 cap rating. This winter ale is, I mean, really, really well done. And I'm always scared when I hear that there's things put into it, right? Cinnamon and cloves and whatever. And he did just the right amount. It actually was able to take the malts that he used and just kind of like enhance the flavor. And make it fantastic. I really like that beer. And then the third one I'll talk about is the To the Bitter End English Bitter. And this is the first one I had. And what I said here is has an aroma with hints of tea. The flavor also has a tea-like character. It is definitely an English mild and super easy to drink. I'll tell you this, the beer was gone in about 5 minutes. So I guess I really enjoyed it. Nicely done, Alex. 4.5 or 4.25 cap rating. So those are the four of the four beers. Those are the ones that I gave the highest rating. Um, the Mexican chocolate stout, again, well-made beer. I just don't like Mexican chocolate stouts very well. I don't like the chili heat. Even though it wasn't a super heavy chili character, I just don't like that burning aftertaste in my throat. And so I rate by style, and I gave it I think I gave it a 3.5 or somewhere around there. I think is what I gave it. Again, not because he had flaws in it, just because it's just not my, I'm not a big. If I do a stout, I don't want a Mexican stout. I want a regular one. So, okay. So then I want to talk about really quickly about two other beers that I had, outside of the ones that I had from, from Alex. But this is from, it's again, Lumberbeard, which is what I'm drinking. I was drinking earlier with their Pilsner. This is Lumberbeard Brewing's Big Red Couch Cold IPA. I'll tell you this, cold IPA is the latest fad of IPAs that, like the Brewed IPA and the Black IPA and everything else that comes. And I was iffy about it, but I've drank at least 20 cold IPAs. I've been drinking a ton of these, and I probably had 5 cold IPAs since our last recording, because everyone is brewing them. And some are better than others, but honestly, not one of them have been one that I didn't like the Brewed IPA, which I didn't like any of them except for maybe one. I am really enjoying these cold IPAs, and I'm not a big fan of danky beers, but with the cold IPA, the dankness is not overwhelming. It just kind of enhances the beer. So I've really grown to enjoy these. So again, keep in mind, I've had a lot of these cold IPAs. I like pretty much all of them. And this one from Lumberbeard is one of the higher ones on my list. I said one of the better cold IPAs, has a signature flavor, and hops are giving off a lemony, slight fruit flavors, very tasty. 4.5 cap rating. Again, Lumberbeard makes some great beers, and even this new style of cold IPA, they're doing it really well. And then the last beer I'm going to talking about Eric Gronley, coming right from Eric Gronley's area of Minneapolis, is from Falling Knife Brewing Company. It's Little Shaky, and they on Untappd they say it's a pastry stout, but it's not really a pastry stout. It's a milk stout. Big coffee aroma, but more subtle in the flavor. Cinnamon and vanilla complementing the coffee, getting a little of the lactose flavor and sweetness, but it blends well with the other flavors. A 4.25 rating. So I'm not a huge fan of milk stouts, but every so often there's ones that stand up and above the rest, and this was one that I really enjoyed, and I look forward to maybe seeing some more Falling Knife beers in my area. So there's my beers, Chris. How about you? What's new and noteworthy from your side of the state?
I actually got to go to a brewery that we talk about pretty regularly, that we don't get to go to a whole lot of beer, get a whole lot of beers from. And I went to Arkane Aleworks yesterday.
Okay, so you went down south?
No, just went west.
Oh, they west from you? I thought they were down south.
No, just went to Largo, which is technically like west northwest of us.
Oh, okay.
So we got to go over there, and they had a lot of really a lot of stuff on tap that I really wanted to try. And since we just passed Easter, they had What the Fluff, which was they have a whole series of beers inspired by the Marshmallow Peeps. So it was a fruit sour with some marshmallow vanilla flavors in it too. But just simple and delicious. It ended up giving it a 4.5 cap rating for it, and had some this, I can't remember what this one is unless I look it up, but this one, out of the 4 of the series that I tried, this one was my favorite, because they had a series of 4, and this one was my favorite to try. But kind of fruity, a little tart, and then had some nice smoothness in it from like the marshmallow vanilla flavor that they put into it.
That's the Fluff.
Yeah, it's the fluff part. Everybody loves some fluff, right? And then I had the SlushyXXL Bahama Mama from 450 North Brewing Company. And this one was just, it seems like every time I get one of these, it's just, if you put it in a blender and maybe threw a banana in it and then mixed it up, you could have it for breakfast kind of thing. And it was like pineapple and mango and peach and just it was thick and it was actually kind of refreshing, not too sweet, didn't have really like weird boozy flavors or anything. It was just some fruit smoothie. Ended up giving it a 4.25 cap for this beer. And then I was also fortunate enough to get some home brew from a good friend of ours, Eric Love, who is in Fort Myers area. He's about 2 hours south of us. This is his very first batch of home brewed beer.
Wow.
And he had a friend or someone who just gave him an entire setup for extract brewing. And it was fun because he's trying to brew all this stuff, and every hour or so I'm getting a text message from him going, well, what if this happens? What do I do with that? I'm like, oh, we'll just take care of it this way. You just do this, you'll be fine. Well, do I need to do this or that? And I'm like, no, listen, just if you have questions about it, because I don't have the instruction list in front of me. I was like, just call Northern Brewer. Like they'll totally walk you through the whole process, because that's who the kit was from. And he was like, they will? I was like, yeah, you call their customer service line. They'll walk you through the whole process. And it was really cool just to kind of watch him get all excited and start into his first kind of journey of brewing his very own beer. And the recipe that he had was a clone recipe of fresh squeeze from Deschutes. And it turned out really well. If I was going to rate it, I wrote in my notes here that I would have rated it a 4 cap rating. And I think the only difference is that the kit was a little older. So while the hops still had some of those, tropical fruit notes in it, it was really just piney and resinous. You get the it was really West Coast IPA style.
Yeah.
But man, the carbonation was good. It had a little slight haze to it, but man, for the most part, it was pretty clean and clear. It had great hop flavor to it. You got those tropical fruity notes up front in like the first half second that you're drinking in, and then it goes to that big hop bitterness of just piney and resinous. If I had been drinking a bottle that said Deschutes fresh squeeze on it, I'd have been a little irritated, but for what it was, man, it was really good. So
good, especially for his first time.
Yeah, I know. And I texted him some notes. Come on, you can do it, phone. The notes that I texted him, he was really excited to get it, because I said, hey, you should be pretty damn proud of that beer. It was really good. I said, the only things that I would adjust would be to ferment it a little cooler, because he doesn't have like a chest freezer with a temperature controller on it. He doesn't have a basement that he can put it in. So what he did is he put it in a closet, and he told me he keeps his house at 70 degrees. I'm like, that's cold, at least for me anyway. That's cool. And he's got a fan on it and stuff. And I said, just next time also, if you can make sure your hops are as fresh as they possibly could be. And he goes, yeah, my buddy gave me this kit that he bought a few months ago. And I was like, there shouldn't be anything too far off, but who knows how long his buddy had the kit too. But the carbonation was spot on. His beer had a slight haze to it. As far as what I can remember from fresh squeezed, it looked pretty close. And I said, what I told Jib just had some really West Coast IPA characteristics to it. When he was really excited to get, keep everything as cool as he could. And, he's like, my buddy gave me the equipment and I ordered the supplies and what I needed. And he's like, I'm really excited. It was a lot of fun. I was like, dude, keep doing what you're doing. Follow those recipes like you're supposed to. He goes, I've got a New Zealand IPA working right now. Like, what's the difference between that? I'm like, it's probably just New Zealand hops. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to try that one. I have to come up and see you guys. I was like, all right, well, cool. Bring them on up. So yeah, I'm excited for him too. So I told him I gave him a 4 cap rating if I could check it in on Untapped.
Oh, good. Nice. Nice. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and end the show. But before we end the show, we always want to give a chance to raise our glass to who we like to raise a glass to tonight. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and give your toast out tonight?
So I'd love to raise a glass. Eric Love, thank you, buddy, for sending me that homebrew. He sent me 4 bottles of that too, by the way.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I was really excited about that. Second one, happy Mother's Day to everyone celebrating Mother's Day on Sunday. Thank you very much. I don't like.
Thank you very much for being our mothers.
Yeah, seriously. I almost said thank you for your service. Like it's right up there with it, it feels like sometimes. And also, happy birthday to Vic Joe on May 11th.
Ah, Victor. Happy birthday, Victor. Awesome.
Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to, sir?
Well, I'll raise a glass. Still have a little beer here in this. I'll raise a glass to Mark Reedy, our Patreon toast tonight. Thank you for your patronage. And Mark, don't forget to send me your address. I've got these business cards I've been waiting to send to you. You never sent us your address. So send me the address. I'll send these cards out to you, as well as a few stickers that you can stick around to spread the word of our show. And I also want to raise my glass to my buddy Alex Fuchs. Once again, thank you, Alex, for sharing your beer, and what great beer it is indeed. And cheers to you. And of course, being a former serviceman, I always want to raise my glass and thank all those who have served and who are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. Thank you for your service, and please return home safely to your families very soon.
Cheers.
And Chris, why don't you go ahead and give a toast out to our sponsor?
Sure. Frost Buddy, specializing in cooling containers for your beverage of choice. Frost Buddy has the Universal Buddy 2.0, which is right here in my hand, which is the world's first universal can cooler for 12-ounce cans, slim cans, bottles, and even 16-ounce cans. I still need to send you an Oregon Duck sticker for that.
I have Oregon Duck stickers.
All right. I'll put it on that thing because, man, this was a just kind of a fluke. I went, I ordered the blue one. Man, it's a perfect color. By the way, first night of the playoffs, we're having our asses handed to us right now by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Last I checked, it was 4-0. Anyway, Frost Buddy also has the world's first universal wine cooler, 24-ounce stainless steel mugs, and even stainless steel dog bowls. Go visit their website at frostbuddy.com.
Okay, and you can find the beers and links to the articles mentioned in the show in the show notes located on the show post at taptocraft.com. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at Loose Screw. And how can our listeners follow you, Chris?
So you can never find me on Twitter at Chris_McKenzie82, but you can find me on Untapped and Instagram at MCK1345. And you can always interact with us on everything social at Tap the Craft.
All right, it is last call. It's time to bring the show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading and listening, and we ask you to please tell a friend and, of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And as a reminder, we release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.